Welcome to the Afghanistan Project Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Bailey, and my guest today is a familiar face who I haven't seen in way too long, John Moses, the co-founder of the Massachusetts Afghan Alliance, an organization that is supporting Afghan allies who have located around Massachusetts. Thank God. John's also a 23-year veteran of the U.S. Army, a veteran fellow at the Hoover Institution, and the director of operations at Wizardline Technologies Incorporated. And thanks for being here, John. I'm always so glad to get to chat with you.
Thanks for having me. As always, it's great to be here. I love coming on tap. It's one of my favorite shows, and it has been too long, and it's good to see you.
Right? It has been. It's been a tough time. I mean, you and I have talked not on tap a little bit in the last few months, and it has been really tough.
Yeah.
This has been some of the toughest. I don't know. You can tell me. I will say, of the whole last 4 years, because 4 years ago, a little bit less than that, or no, a little bit more than that, is when I started writing about, because I started writing about pre-withdrawal Afghanistan in May of 21. So like, it's been more than 4 years now that I'm thinking about it. And I think this last couple months has been the worst part of that entire experience, which has not been easy, any of it. So tell me, what do you think about that?
So, I mean, we'll start with the light stuff. Actually, let's do that. I will talk about that, but I want to talk a little bit about some positive things first.
Oh gosh, John, I love it. Okay, that's great.
I think it's actually really important so people understand, and we can talk about the difficulties and where those are coming in.
Yes.
But even in the past few months, and we're going to have to be more careful with this. Like Massachusetts Afghan Alliance had several really great events. Actually, Kate Kavarga came to one. She was really welcome. She got to meet some of the people and some of the families. But we've had several events now. We've had both cultural events for Eid. We've also had events more like think about Afghan artists. We had this great author named Sola Mahfouz come on with her great book, and she had the opportunity to go out and meet the community. But we have had hundreds and hundreds of people come through the doors of local town events now with Afghans and Afghan food and dancing. My mom got henna, and she loved it. It was her favorite photo of the evening, of the day. And it was just a great event, right? And so I think the thing I will say, despite all the fear, and there are some real fears out there, Afghans are continuing to do the work. They're continuing to do things like I want to go to school. They're doing all the things they can to be, eventually a great American, despite these challenges. So Mass Afghan's been really happy. We've been really proud to sponsor these events and to put these events on. We've gotten a ton of support from the Asian American Pacific Islanders of Massachusetts and several other organizations that have given donations. Since October of last year, we've raised over $25,000 for various projects, both through grants and individual donations. So we've done really well. And I'm just really happy we have the opportunity to use that money to help people and to grow the Afghan community here. So that's the good news stuff. That's stuff that's going well.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for taking me off my dark and dismal path there. Because it's been a dark and dismal day. So I was ready to just go down that hole. But that's good that there is happiness and community, especially the community part. That's really fantastic to hear that culture is being shared widely and enjoyed and celebrated, because it's beautiful. Yeah. What about some of the, you've talked about some of the families that you're supporting before. Would this be a good time to talk about how the families that you're supporting are doing?
Yeah, we could do that. Absolutely. So we have several families in Massachusetts. So I'll start with my favorite. I'm not supposed to say she's my favorite, but Zara has been one of my favorite families since I started doing this work. Like I said, Kate got to meet her, and a lot of other people from Mass Afghan and Afghan evac type of community have now met her. And she's fantastic. So Zara is in a town in Massachusetts, the city in Massachusetts. I'm not going to say where. She has a very private residence. She is taken care of well by her supporters, but her and her husband are both working. Her disabled child is getting all of the program work that he needs to actually be able to learn to walk and do all that kind of stuff. And that family's really adapted. Zara's working full time. She got her permit. And then this Saturday, I'm not going to be around, but we're finding a woman volunteer to come down and drive around. So the Zara's family's doing outstanding. Some other families have done well too. We have reunification families. So before I get into the sad part of this story, two Afghan young men, just graduated from Chelmsford High School, my town, and got to walk across the stage and get an American diploma. So that family is doing really well too, but they are reunification families. So essentially, we do have news that their case moved forward into NVC. So essentially, it's moved on to follow to join status. They've gotten KBL numbers. We're waiting to see what the changes to with the recent ban have made, and we are really truly hoping it doesn't affect reunification families. And just for background for your viewers that don't know, reunification families were families that were split up during the 2 weeks at the airport. And during the I want to be really upfront, for 3.5 years, I fought with the Biden administration to find a better way to account for those people and get them home. So essentially, these families were families that were separated at the airport. These families have now been separated for nearly 4 years, including this young man that just graduated high school. And a few weeks ago, we got their KBL number saying they're follow to join. And for years, I fought with the Biden administration in order to try to help these families reconnect faster, right? I always felt they were more vulnerable. I felt their cases were more traumatic because they did it separate. And I also felt the Biden administration didn't do a very good job, or the associated orgs didn't get enough focus on these reunification families to actually get them in the pipeline faster. And so now they've been separated for 4 years, and just 2 weeks ago we get this great news that they're going to do stuff. We start fundraising, and then immediately there's another travel ban. This travel ban affects Afghanistan, and we don't know if it affects these families. But these essentially are families that have been separated for 4 years from their wives, from their kids, and this kind of unpredictability has not just been painful for Afghans. It's been really hard on the volunteers and the veterans that have to try to communicate that everything is okay or it's not okay. So that's kind of that's where reunification comes from, and that's the cases we're working on. We have more, but those are the big ones.
Reunification is a maybe. I know that I saw that there were some things we know from the travel ban, like I-730s are exempted. Are these I-730 cases, or
they're already approved though? So
okay.
We're thinking that maybe they just squeeze through the system right in time. And there's hope. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to cling to this hope until somebody tells me there is none, and we're just going to keep trying. The KBL numbers have been transferred. Well, we're in the process of transferring them, so we hopefully will see that soon. And until that door closes, I'm going to keep my foot in it as long as I can. And I do think there's hope. I do think they might have just been really lucky and gotten out of that system fast. But I think to Americans and the people that maybe, disagreed with all of this stuff, I can't even imagine, like, in your humanity, to look at a family like that that's been separated for that long, that's worked, that's gone to high school, that has done all of these things to become, part of the American culture, and think that this travel ban is somehow fair to those people. But then again, we're talking about temporary protected status people who are super vulnerable. They don't care about those Afghans either. So I think it's just a tough time to be an Afghan, and I think it's a tough time for these families that have to deal with all this constant uncertainty. I mean, we're telling people in asylum process not to go to court because they just I don't know why I'm laughing. I mean, they just arrested 2 Afghans going for their interview, doing the process everybody wanted us to do. So it's a little bit crazy out here, but those are some of the families I'm helping. I went off in a while. Sorry.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we saw it in the beginning. I remember, I think the first story I was able to break about an Afghan in the middle of I think asylum proceedings, got rolled up at his 1-year check-in. Well, luckily, I did a check-in with that lawyer like last week, and he is good to go. He got released. They were able to figure things out, and he has asylum now. But nobody knows for how long. I know that by the time that this episode comes out, Matt Zeller's episode will be out, and he's worried that, birthright citizenship is going to be revoked, and that Afghans could be. There are just a lot of things people are concerned about right now, for various reasons. So
there's no rhyme or reason to any of it, and I think what you're seeing now is, and I think what you're seeing now with veterans and stuff is you're seeing the second evacuation, right? And it's not an evacuation this time; it's a deportation, and I think it's coming too. I think they're going to go after a lot of different things. I find it kind of astonishing that Americans, I talk to people in my community that tell me how much they support my work on one hand, and then they talk about deportation on the other. And I think what people don't realize is it really is, at this point, it is really just luck of the draw and the color of your skin of why you're getting picked up. and they're sending people to Guantanamo Bay, they're sending people to Sudan, and they're talking about sending Afghans back to Afghanistan, which for a lot of these people is going to be a death sentence. It's been a real betrayal of the OIF, OEF generation. To be honest, I think, after 9/11, and I was 20 something years old, and the whole country came at us and said, "Hey, you got to go do your thing. It's your turn. World War II, Vietnam. You're going to go all out and you're going to do your work." And in over 20 something years, we built an army and friendships and relationships with people. But we built, even on top of that, we built rebuilt the army, right? We built the Marines. We made it different. We changed it into a reflection of our generation of people and veterans. And I got to tell you, since January 20th, all these people that really told me they supported veterans have really turned their back on this generation. I think the OEF, OIF generation is now the generation of the past, and people have moved on. And it's a real slap in the face. But I see people online, they're like, the Afghans can go too. And Joe Biden didn't invite the Afghans here, we did. So that's all I had to say. But I just think it's an important point to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's veterans who got me into this. I wouldn't be doing the advocacy I do through journalism if it had not been for veterans working so hard to get their interpreters out of the country as it was falling after trying like hell to get the SIV process to work with them for years.
Yeah.
And so to see, in fact, you know what I would love? I would love to see your reunification cases get processed so quickly to show that what Trump can do. I remember talking to you and others in the lead up to this administration. We were so hopeful because Trump had brought up Afghanistan in his speeches and seemed to really care about the trauma that HKIA veterans had to live through. I mean, I saw him bring one of the people I've interviewed, an incredible young man, to Mar-a-Lago to hear from him, and so it would be just excellent if this all turned around. And I said this on my shorts today, which shows you how long ago, will be like 2 weeks by the time that this comes out. But I would stand behind any leader who could change this and who could have the guts to say, we screwed up and we hurt a lot of people and we're going to fix it now.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see it get fixed. That's all I care about. I want to see your families not have to have that struggle anymore. I can't imagine what it would be like to be missing your children and your spouse for that long.
One of the big things on reunification families too is that trauma spreads, right? Because they have people that really care about them. They have volunteers, they have churches, and the families aren't always going to act rational when they're scared or something happens to their family in Afghanistan, right? So in Kabul, we just moved a family, and these families they're really having a hard time. Their mental health isn't great. And then a lot of times it's volunteers that are there to pat these guys on the back or, and say, hey, we're here for you. Practice sub-R. You're going to be super patient. We're going to practice these things. But 4 years is a long time. And if my kid was stuck somewhere else or your kids, I mean, anybody that has somebody they love, they would want their family with them. And they can't go back. They have an opportunity now to make this right for these families they screwed up. They really do. I was really hopeful about Trump, President Trump. I thought President Trump was at least cognizant of the veteran portion of it. And I thought more importantly, though, maybe not President Trump, that Americans would look at Afghan veterans and say, hey, the veterans are asking for these people to be here. Why, but that's not what we're getting. We're, at this point, I am quite sure people that have told me they supported Mass Afghan would turn into family without a thought in their heart. So I think the world's a dangerous place. I think in the United States, Afghans are scared. I know Afghan Americans that carry their passports in the United States. Same stuff we were doing in Pakistan and Afghanistan, right? Keep your ID on you. Don't go to this event. Don't go here. I mean, what are we doing? What is this?
I can't even fathom that. And I remember at the beginning when people were worried about that, I thought, no, it won't come to that. And I'm sad to have been so wrong.
Yeah.
But I see the videos and not of Afghans. I haven't seen any videos of Afghans being, rolled up and taken in. But I have seen, I have not talked about this anywhere. And if you think it's not a good thing to mention, I can get rid of it. But the Fairfax shooting, where
Mm,
the gentleman in Fairfax was stopped by the police and talking about how hard things had been for him. He had lost his license and he was very agitated, having a really, really hard time. And he said, I should have just fought for the Taliban. And I
mm,
think a lot of Americans might watch that and think, what the, what the hell? Why would we have somebody like that in
mm.
our country? What they don't understand is they had a choice. All these people who fought with us had a choice.
Yeah,
Do we throw in our towel with the Americans and believe the promises that they gave us that they're going to stay and turn things around?
yeah,
Or do we just let the Taliban take over and not put ourselves at risk?
yeah,
And that's a huge choice that they had to make.
yep.
And what has happened in the last months, because this happened around the time I think of it was at least after the travel ban had been leaked but
Mm,
not announced yet. You're hearing that not like you don't get that safety here anymore. The people you love now, just there's so much instability, so much hurt, and we don't understand that. It's just I don't think a lot of Americans understand the depth of what we asked Afghans to do and how deeply we betrayed them by not staying and doing the job we said we would do. I mean, we put them in a target
yeah,
and then we left, like in the case of your reunification families, we left their families in that target.
yeah.
Every time that there is a new edict against women, can you imagine being a man here in the States and knowing that your wife is under increasing pressure inside Afghanistan and can't even speak in her own country? Or now you're seeing videos of men, too, being forcibly shaved. And it's just, there's always been something. There has never been a moment of calm in the last 4 years
No,
for Afghans or for the people who cared about them.
yeah. And the country's totally forgotten about us. I think the all that support we had coming out of 9/11 and all the way through, and then through Afghan evac, it's not totally evaporated. I mean, we definitely have supporters. I have people that we care about, right? We have people that we love. We have people that we work with that are still doing the good fight, and I am very grateful for them. I think the general population, though, long ago, actually quite a while ago, started steering away from what our generation was trying to build. So, my biggest hope out of that was, I think, if we could continue to build, right, and show people how immigration, that's what was my hope. People would see how we were doing it and say, that's the way to do it, right? And we didn't, it just not what happened. I was surprised at how fast it happened. And, this family here, they have daughters in Afghanistan. They don't go to school, right? These are things that they don't get to do anymore, right? So I think, but more importantly, they should just be here. I think we made a mistake. And as a country, if we have honor, or if we have, or we believe in duty, or any of the other things, any of those other real values, we should fix the things that we break. But that doesn't appear to be the sentiment in the country right now to be fixing anything. So,
Yeah. Yep. I think we've really taken our eye off the ball of so many things. The moral rightness of that, the fact that now everything that veterans fought for in Afghanistan has gone backwards to pre 9/11 conditions, which is terrifying, right? I mean,
yeah,
it is pre 9/11 conditions. You have two dozen different terror groups operating inside of Afghanistan,
hmm,
and Al Qaeda is getting protection from the Taliban.
hmm,
Like, how many more flashing signals do you need? And everybody's worried here about insider threats. That's what I keep hearing from detractors, right? That, well, why would you want to bring people here who might cause the next attack? Did they not just watch events in Russia from Ukraine?
yeah,
The Trojan horse attack? Like, do you not think that there are other threats outside of what might happen in the homeland? Like, there's
there is.
people are just so they have their blinders on.
Well, here's the thing, right? We live in a free country, and one of the things is freedom is naturally not safe, right? There's a balance between freedom and safety. So there are just people that believe with more security, more drones, more hunting down illegals, going onto people's private property, they're more free. But the thing is if you take freedom away from one person, you've taken it away from all. Because and you can tell. They've taken LPRs. They've taken green card holders. They've taken American citizen now several times, right? American citizen kids too, and they're saying, "Oh well, the mom said to take the kid." There's a scene in Schindler's List where the German guard runs up to the train and she's got her son and her daughter, and he says, "Pick one, choose one." That's how much time they're giving these families to pick. It's the same thing. It is an officer of the government walking up to you and saying, "Choose between your son and your daughter. Go. You have 5 seconds," right? And then they say, "Okay, well, the mother said it, but they don't have any paperwork. They didn't sign anything. They can't prove it." So, but yeah, I think that's I just think that a lot of people have given up their freedom now for some kind of illusionary safety, and the federal government is beating up your neighbors, right? It's beating up us. It's beating up Afghans. I've just talked to a few Afghans today. We give them. I have to give Afghans warrant training. Like, this is what a judicial warrant looks like. This is so traumatic for everybody. It's amazing to me that we're like rescuing Afghans in America now. Like, it's just a really frustrating time for all of us, I think. I think we're not going to see calmer heads for the next 4 years. We're 5 months in. So my only hope is that the people that made it past that line get to stay, and then people just leave them alone. That's really what I'm hoping.
Yeah, it's so sad because I've always said, my first, however long, probably my first year and a half, 2 years of covering post-withdrawal stuff, I didn't pay any attention to refugees in the States because my thought was they're safe. They're good to go. I don't have to focus on that. And then I learned all about, re-parole and all these things and just the difficulties that refugees were facing.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not the same as having the Taliban on your tail in Afghanistan, but when I learned about it, I'm like, oh my God, we have to talk about these things because they're terrible. And now it's like the tables have completely turned because the people who were supposed to be safe and we didn't have to. I just got done talking to someone about how they fought so hard to get SIVs for people who were stateside, and we're told not to worry about it because they needed the SIVs for people who needed to get out of the country. And now what? Now what? And I've heard people say before too, hey, if you're in the States and you have the option to get Asylum versus SIV in the early days of this year, it was like, don't take the SIV because then you're taking it away from somebody overseas maybe. But now it's like, oh my gosh, knowing everything we know, that's the problem. Is I liken this whole thing to walking through a dark room where there's a bunch of crazy obstacles in your way, and like there might be a light under something over here, but like not enough that you're not going to trip. Nobody knows what the obstacles are, and we're all navigating blind, and it's just so, it hurts my heart. Yeah. And I don't have a case. Yeah. I don't even have a case load. I'm not managing any families, and it hurts me. So I can't imagine what it's like to be you and all the other people who have, families that they've grown close to that they're watching deal with all this. What is it like? Tell me.
Yeah, and before it even goes, just so you know, I have other families in Afghanistan still. I have an SIV family in a safe house. We just got education for their kid. We have a husband of an American in Pakistan. He's going to make it out for sure. That's a normal process. But like, yeah, this work has extended now far beyond. And my SIV was about to get out. His number changed. We were ready to go, and they took the money away, and we were like, we'll figure out how to pay for it. And then they took the path away, right? How it is for the families here. I mean, it's as hard as you could think. Like I've walked into their apartment and seen, 2 young kids crying. Like they just want to see their mom, right? Especially in Afghan culture, right? The mom is so important. And they're just so important to be around, right? But no, it's super hard. I mean, they feel abandoned. I mean, I've often heard comments like, I wish I could just go back and not got on that stupid plane. Like, who thought there was going to be 4 years? And just honestly, again, and I'll just keep saying it, like the last administration was, they did a lot of really great work and they pushed a lot of people through, but they really, when talking to the care team and the different orgs, they really just never identified these families. And it unfortunately now has gone to the point where we don't know. And outside of those families, I do know there are a lot of other reunification families still waiting. and did not get to that KBL, that next step. So we'll see. We'll see. But it is hard. They have emotional trauma. One of the kids won't do any sports because he's like, my mom's not here. I'm not doing that. And like me, I'm like, you should shut up and go do some sports, but whatever. But he's the one dealing with it. I don't have to, it's heavy. These are teenagers.
Gosh. Yep, that's a lot for any teenager at a vulnerable time to have to manage. But yeah, it's a lot. And like you said, it's impacting volunteers too. It's just, it radiates its pain.
Yeah. And again, there is some hope out there. Occasionally we're getting Afghans that come out in like, onesies, twosies, and then people really jump on them to like help as much as they can. I find it startling, again, like how small the world has just gotten for a lot of these families, and how on board people are for it. But here we are. And so Mass Afghan and us and people like you are going to continue to do work to get the word out over the next 4 years. We're going to continue to support Afghans with events. We're going to find new programs. We want to do some ELA programs. We have ideas for that. We have a lot of really great support in the community. And there is now, because of all these events and all these people coming together, there's actually an Afghan community, like a larger community around here. And I'm really glad to be part of that. It's my absolute prayer that nothing happens and nobody gets deported or detained. If they do, we'll act appropriately, we'll act legally, and we will figure out how to get them out. But I will just say right now, veterans will respond if you start taking Afghans. And let's hope that doesn't come to that. I think I'm just grateful to be here and around all these people. They're so great. They're just so great.
Yeah, I'm jealous of probably all the excellent food you get to consume.
Oh, too much food.
Yeah, I believe that. Oh, I'm sure that goes over real well. Tell me, is there anything else that we should know? Anything that is on your heart that you want to bring up? Let's go for it, John Moses. I'm not even asking questions. You just talk.
Yeah, no, I think one of the other things that has had to happen recently is I've been active on the protest scene now. I have this, again, you have all these conversations with people, and we're really stuck in this point now where everybody's on this national conversation, right? 21 million illegal aliens and all this stuff. But really the thing about immigration is it's like a one-to-one game, right? So it's like you and a family and local. So a lot of people be like, why are you protesting? Like, what do you go out to these protests and speak for? Like, what are you doing? These aren't local issues. You're talking about national stuff. And I'm like, well, federal policies now have dramatically affected my life. So you'll see me out there now speaking about immigration rights and the Army built by an immigrant community and the evolution of the Army over the years, especially since World War II, and that kind of betrayal that we've now seen from this particular generation and this particular party of Afghans. So I've been doing a lot of protesting. I've been speaking in Boston with the 50, I'm not part of their org, but the 5051 organization. They're a nationwide org, but they have one chapter in every state. So there's like 50 of them out there, all working independently. And I've spoke out heavily on Afghan rights, on the right to due process for all immigrants, the rights to due process for citizens, because citizens have been getting rolled up. I think this is a time, if you're an Afghan veteran and you are interested in Afghanistan, if you're watching this, you probably are. It's probably time to like go out and start volunteering. The only thing we have right now against, maybe a big change that starts people deporting is time. And what we do in that time is going to matter. And that's it. Like, I just hope whatever we can do is going to be enough to convince somebody in the White House to not continue this train on our Afghan friends.
So if you had the opportunity to talk to somebody in the administration about why they should change course, what would you say?
Let us prove it. If you think immigrants are the worst and they're all illegal and you think they're all crime-ridden, whatever, it's not true. It's just simply not true, and let Afghan veterans prove it. Let me show you. That's what I would say. Just let us prove it. Give us somebody that does care about Afghans, and let us just go do it, right? We're not asking now. We're not even asking for money anymore. You don't give us any money for resettlement. You don't give us any money. You don't give money to resettlement agencies anymore. American taxpayers are now off the hook for refugee and resettlement. So just open the door. Let us get our people out and stay away from them with ICE, because Afghan veterans deserve better than this. It's America's longest war, and it's so disheartening and demoralizing to know that just people just don't care. But that's what I would tell them. You should care and let us do our thing and just leave us alone, and we'll make sure they don't bother you. Like, sorry we brought immigrants in. Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that gets me is just what would have happened if somebody shut the door on your family?
My family immigrated from Quebec. I know where my family came from. So my family comes. I spoke to somebody the other day. I spoke to there's a general officer that's looking to come and work with 5051. So I was speaking to this general, and we were talking about we had to kind of make our pitch, right? And this is something that had come up recently for me. Is one of my great grandfathers. His name is Samuel Bailey. He was Private Samuel Bailey during the Battle of Bunker Hill, and he's buried there. 47 years old when he went to Bunker Hill. I think 47 or 42. It's one of the two. But he was older, became a private, went and died in Bunker Hill. The other half of my family came through Quebec and through France and other places too, other mixed places. My family is literally the epitome of what an American family can be. I have several founding, colonial members in my family, but I also have this incredibly rich French background and French Canadian background and all this different food and all of these different things. My grandfather couldn't read, and he worked his whole life, right? Afghans, Venezuelans, and all these other people want to just come here and do crappy work for no money so their kids can just have a better life and end up like somebody like Beth or like John or any of the other smart people we know that can do something. And that's just what we want to fight for.
Yeah, that's what, and not all Afghans want to do crappy work though. I mean, there are some people who are coming here because that's the other argument that I've heard, and that it just makes me so freaking angry when people are like, well, all they can do is drive Uber and start an Afghan restaurant. You know what? I wish that an Afghan family would move to my town and start an Afghan restaurant. I would frequent that all the damn time. Kabuli pulao every week, kids. They would love it.
Yes.
But, Balani for days. But that's not, that's not the only thing that people can do. But they will. They'll work
They'll
and
do whatever they can.
Right.
So, like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's your show. Go.
One of the families that I work with, right? So, he's illiterate, da-da-da-da. You think he's only manual labor guy. He's done so much good work that he's in a supervisory position. They've set it up because he's good at the job, right? And they set it up in a way that he can work. But outside of that, I mean, I've seen now people engineers. I've seen people already get their college degrees. I've seen girls that when a girl first gets to the United States from Afghanistan, the first thing they ask about is how to get their degree, their diploma if they don't have it, get their GED if they need it, go to college if they haven't, or get their master's degree if they have. That's Afghan woman in a nutshell. And the men do all kinds of incredible work. They work in offices. They're brilliant people just like anybody else. And they just want, and some of them are going to come here and they're going to struggle and they're going to raise their kids and their kids will be better for it. And maybe they'll join the military and become a citizen someday. But right now, the way the government is working, they are taking this opportunity not just away from the Afghans that want to do this, they're taking it away from the Afghan veterans and the civilians that want to watch them succeed. They've taken all of that from people.
Yeah. And I think something else that is important that these families can do, I'm sure that some of these families will want to return to Afghanistan when the Taliban is not in control anymore. And imagine that. You've got people, how many generations of women under the Taliban are not going to be able to get an education? But you can have a woman who was trained and educated in the States who can then return and run her country.
I would love it.
Yeah, I've seen it though already. It happened before. Like, I'm thinking about Mariam Soleiman Kale.
Yeah.
Came and represented the Coochies, and she was raised on the West Coast.
Yeah.
That is what we can do now, is give these women an opportunity to get the education they cannot get in their country, so that when the Taliban are gone, women are not erased from society. Because at this point, that's exactly that's what they want. Yeah. If we kill the education, they will not be able to ever rise up and be part of us, because they're never going to be in the leadership of the Taliban. That's not allowed. It's not allowed. Yeah, we have to give girls an opportunity so that once that group has vacated its office, there can be women in Afghanistan leading again, just like there have been for centuries before the Taliban.
I agree. I 100% agree with you. I think one of the most impactful legacies we left in the United States was educating 23 years worth of Afghan men and women. Like, right? Those women still exist in Afghanistan. They're still educated, and I don't think the Taliban's going to be forever. I think the Taliban, they're scrappy and they're surviving, but I think they just fired 100 and something thousand, of their workers. I think the Taliban doesn't sit on the right side of justice, and that arc does eventually bend back. And I do think there'll be a free Afghanistan someday, and we'll all get to go back. My dream when I left Afghanistan was to go back someday, like Vietnam veterans do. Um, we're just not yeah, it's just not going to happen for us right away. So we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to be patient and practice sabar, like I tell all my Afghans, and just hope. There's no hope in any of this strategy. Just work towards a good outcome.
Yeah, I had to tell that to my daughter this week. I was like, she said something about, well, somebody said that hope isn't good. I said, no, they said it's not.
Right.
It's not a plan. You have to plan. You have hope is putting the action behind what you want. That's what hope is.
The
Hope
fire.
is scrappy. Hope frickin', you know, gets into the gutter. That's what hope does. Hope doesn't just sit there going, oh, maybe this will. I said, if you just said, I hope I can learn to write cursive, would you learn to write a lick of cursive? No, you would not.
Yeah.
If you want to do it, you put in the work, and that's where everybody is. I think that's the great thing of the last 4 years is that a lot of incredible people have helped to build up a diaspora movement for Afghans with the ability to lead that country one day, have given people a place to land and not fail,
Yeah.
which Mass Afghan, definitely a place like that, to have that cultural celebration, to have people around them, because that's, imagine coming to a place and not having a community after all that Afghans went through at the fall. That would be just horrible. So all of these groups, everybody has their place
They do.
in making it all work, and I'm just so grateful to have watched it all, and I hope that, the work doesn't get ended.
Well, someday when you're getting your Pulitzer Prize, and I'll be the one introducing you about your latest
Oh yeah?
report of the first woman president of Afghanistan, and me like being the ambassador or something, being like.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna have so many wrinkles at that point in my life.
Oh, we'll be so hot. We'll be so hot. Look at this here. Look, I got this like little streak going on.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I've gotten so many grays, and I always wonder: is it my divorce or is it Afghanistan? I'm not really sure which one brought them on. I know it's not my kids because they're angels. So, but it might be my kids too.
Could be. Could be.
I've gotten so many streaks in the last 3 years that who knows where they came from, but they came. Well, John Moses, anything else that we should discuss?
I think I'll just say to the community, this is what I would say, right? I think the community needs to understand the next, 30 whatever months that are left to this are going to be a challenge. Afghan veterans, Diplos, all these people are going to have to stand up and get in the way. We're going to have to be sometimes compliant, sometimes maliciously compliant, but we're going to have to do what we have to do to protect Afghans. And if, they start detaining and deporting, I hope Afghan veterans will come out in mass, and I hope people will come out in mass because these people really need our help. And this community is really now part of their community. And so that's what I would say. Just if it gets to the point where they're going after Afghans, I'm hoping the rest of this community stands up in the biggest, loudest possible way, because Afghans are going to just get rolled over without our help.
Sunny words. Well, I'm glad that you brought it back down to the dark place where I started it. I think that will be the time. I'm hoping that people will get loud. And I will say that for anybody watching, it might have already happened at this point. I don't know. I'm planning on doing a special, addendum episode on how to write an op-ed and contact your congressman so that people can be loud and say how they feel. And I'm hoping that they avail themselves of cultural activities to get to know the Afghans in their community and understand the community.
Yeah.
Because I think that makes all the difference. And I know that I have been floored by the kindness of Afghans, and most of them I've never even met in real life. So
Isn't that something? Can I tell you all the families I've gotten out? I don't know a single one of them. I've never
yeah,
met any of them. So I think for some of them become such good friends, like those American citizen kids, the guy Omar, the parent, who's a green card holder, like they're really good friends now. I have those families down in Virginia with my great friend Safi and his family. His family, because of the airport, like this is the stuff you got to look back on, right? He's an American citizen. He only would have gotten a few people out, but because he came out through the airport, he got his whole family, including his mom, right? Extra people. We got some extra people. Um, but there were just all these incredible families around, and there's the Sadats and the Sakizadas and the Zizis and all these just incredible people that, like you just talked about, um, that are out there just waiting for Americans to meet and love.
yeah.
You know?
And I want people to hear that, and not because now I hear things through two sets of ears. I hear them through the ears of somebody who's been doing this for 4 years, and then I hear them through the ears of somebody who is fearful,
Yeah.
and they've been led to be fearful. And I don't want people to hear what you're saying as I don't know that they are legit. I don't know them, and I'm not sure, because everyone that you
Mhm.
helped and anybody who's come to this country has had to go through vetting.
They did, yeah. All
You did not vet them. It was never your job to vet them. It was your job to help them through the process.
yeah.
And the U.S. government vetted them fully. None of them came here because John Moses was like, I say this Afghan can come. Like, no, that was never the case. But we all supported our people. And I am certain that there have been people that I have said, I've seen your documents. They look legit. Why aren't you coming here?
Oh yeah.
And then maybe it wasn't actually a legitimate document, but that was never for me to discern. That's for the U.S. government to discern.
My job was to be a moral good person and help people. I did. I
Right.
mean, we did some freedom. I knew enough about SIVs that we looked at all the SIV packets. We looked, and
Yeah.
we were pretty confident the people we got. And then like helping a woman come through, right? Like one of the women that we got out was just a teacher. Her whole family was going to leave, and it was this one woman. And we were like, absolutely not. Like we're going to take you with your family. And we did. Her name's Beheshta. She's married. She has an American kid. I don't regret that at all.
Think about it. Um, I know of, teachers who there was one principal. She had an IED left on the front doorstep of her home by the Taliban before the withdrawal. Not right before the withdrawal, but in the years before. And so it was really important to get her out. I don't know what pathway. I actually don't know if she ever did get out. The group that I was helping, who was helping her, folded a couple months into 2022. And I don't know, because what pathway would she have used? Principal of a school?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right. No, and that's the thing. People had to find those things, right? We had to figure those out. We just had to make choices. I think the thing is when you have a limited time and in a known endpoint, which was August 31st, we just had to make choices. And the government didn't make it easy. The Biden administration didn't make it easy, right? And my thing with them is at the end of it all, they took all the credit for it too, which I thought which was absurd. I think they chose to. I think if the administration at that time had chosen to embrace the American nature of that event as opposed to the democratic nature of the success and ignoring the failure, right? Because that's what they did. They were so successful, 150,000 people, blah, huge planes. We used the Plane Act so we could help people. And at the end of it all, they didn't give credit to the people on the ground. These veterans that came out, some veterans came out just because the country was like, oh shit, like they need our help. Like that's why we showed up, right? And I just think they really, I think the whole administration would have done different. And I think we would have been in a different place now if that administration had been more willing to give credit and take blame, I think.
Yeah, because when you think about it, the only success that was really reached is because of the people like you who did the stuff behind the scenes. It's not, that there are so many people who would have been in worse conditions. But really, when I look at the whole thing as a whole, when you look at the entirety of the scope, everything was like a big failure, it felt like. I mean, think of all the pain that has radiated out because of what we did, leaving like that and letting the Taliban take control of that country. If we had not done that, if we had chosen a different path, we could have alleviated so much suffering.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm just endlessly thankful for the people who did that unsung work, who kept some of the suffering from happening, or at least alleviated some of it to the extent that they could.
I think these people are miracle workers. I think the case managers and these people that showed up out of nowhere. When I tell this story to people, like I don't know, I was part of it, right? So when you're part of something, you're like, that was pretty cool, right? But then you meet people and they're like, what do you mean you chartered a private flight from Afghanistan to the United States? And I was like, I needed a plane, so I found a guy that had a plane. And then we and actually it wasn't me. I can't even take credit. It was one of my team members, Lisa, who did. She negotiated for this plane, and it ended up later. We're not positive, but we're pretty sure it was George Bush's plane. We got more people out because of the work of these people than the former president of the United States. And so, like, people are like, you talk to national security people, or I talked to these generals the other day, like they're talking about helping us to protest, and they're like, so you guys came up with a whole command structure in like a day and essentially managed operations throughout a country in a loosely knit, and you're like, yeah, and he's like, that's why the United States military is the best in the world, right? Show up with a problem, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to look at solutions. We're going to see if it worked. If it didn't work, we'll evaluate it, find another solution, and do the whole thing over and over again. And that's what the whole thing was. But we had to make so many choices. I had to make a choice to leave a family behind because they couldn't accomplish their own exit. They just weren't competent enough, and we had to be like, I'm sorry, I've given 3 tries to you. Like, we got to give it to another family now. It's brutal.
God,
Calculus of rescue work.
that is hard. I can't even. Yeah, when I hear from people like you who did that, I'm like, dude, I don't even belong in this conversation. You know, that's just, it's next level. It's incredible, and those are the stories that need to be told.
Yeah.
In a wide forum, and to, you know, there have been some efforts to tell stories like yours for the world to hear, but there need to be more.
They're due, and I think right now is just too noisy. I think the immigration world is too noisy to tell that story. I think a lot of stories need to be told. I think there are some incredibly heroic stories. I wish we had more work done with that. I wish we had more work on the historical part of it. I have offered, though, if you write a book, I will write your foreword if you want. And if I write a book, I will let you be in the book as well. You could be, I don't know, I might give the foreword to my kid, maybe.
That's cool. I like that idea.
Right.
Actually, you know what? You'd have to compete with my eldest for that one, because she's a good little writer. Maybe I'll let her write the introductory poem, and you can write the foreword. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many. It's funny because when I think about writing a book about this time, it's like one won't suffice, because you and I both know somebody that we met last summer whose story deserves a book of its own. And your story deserves a book. There are just, you can't, and that's not fair either. Because when you take them and put them into their separate silos, it's not the whole story. And you couldn't possibly tell the whole story in a single book. You just can't. You look like you're dancing when you're doing this, and it just gives me joy, and I really needed that today. Yeah, do you have any final words, John Moses? You get the parting comment if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. So if you're out there and you don't agree with what's happening, whether it's Afghans or other immigrants, I am really asking community members to go out and to either volunteer, to protest. You don't have to go stand in a crowd with a sign. There's things you can do at home. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. There's letters you can write. But we have to continue to put pressure. And this has to be so unpopular that the president changes his mind. He's the only person that's going to make this decision, or somebody in his staff. And we need people to keep putting pressure. Wear your Army hats, your Marine hats if you're a Marine or whatever. But we need more voices, louder voices all the time.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you as always for being here and giving an update on these really important things. Thank you to everybody for listening. Please let me know if you want to come on and share a story. send me a message at the Afghanistan Project Podcast at gmail.com. And for now, Tasha Kaur, and hope to see you again soon.